we are here to go on a journey to Salesforce Marketing Cloud with none other than Vlad. And Vlad, take us on this journey. Over to you. I'll just stop sharing and you can start sharing.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Vikas. And once again, thank you. Welcome everyone. Without any further ado, I'm going to say big thank you to number one is your participation. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you've been part of that pre-call time, we all been in a lot of sort of technical sessions, a lot of virtual sessions this year. So the time is really, really grateful that you're sort of investing into education and trying to learn new tools. And the other side, I want to say thank you to the groups, both to Gaurav and Anil and Vikas, to organizing that particular session, because I think it's very, very important that we share the love for marketing with as many people as we can, because we certainly have a lack of talent all over the globe. And therefore, I'm hoping that at least one thing I can do today is to try and excite and inspire people who are sort of willing and considering marketing as potential for their career. So the plan for today is I'm going to cover a bit of an overview of the Marketing Cloud, different tools within Marketing Cloud, let's put it this way. I will quickly look into an architecture, just more, I guess, supporting that conversation between Anil and Gaurav to give those of you who are technical, a technical perspective, because an overview, I want to touch it on a bit more, less technical, let's put it this way. At the same time, I'd like to share with you some options and opportunities for career in marketing domain. There's a lot of options, there's a lot of opportunities, but one of the things we're finding is not a lot of people sort of aware of what are these options, and therefore not necessarily looking deeper and choosing to even explore that space. And at the end, I'm going to give you some tips where you can start your learning journey. So that's the plan for today. We're going to proceed straight with an overview, I guess, of in the beginning of everything is our Salesforce Customer 360 platform. So as I said, the first part that I want to touch on is really unpivot what Marketing Cloud is all about and give you a bit of a higher level, not necessarily super technical overview, but give you an idea of where it fits and what it does. What is important is to understand when we at Salesforce, when we talk about our products, we really talk about Customer 360 platform today. And this is our sort of brand, this is our platform, this is our differentiator, this is our advantage, whatever you call it. All of these things are applicable because what we're trying to do is we're trying to give our customers, which are different companies, brands, an opportunity to manage their relationship, business activities across varieties of different domains. So we start with sales, we continue with service, then later on we're expanding into marketing, commerce, analytics, and all other things. You know, if you're a part of the developer community, you're very well familiar with the platform, which is an amazing opportunity to create business applications, saving a lot of time, because the right-hand side of the diagram shows up a lot of added in and inbuilt service functions that we provide as a part of that platform as a service or software as a service, however look at that in a different perspective. If you've never been using software, which I doubt, or if you're unfamiliar with platforms as a service or software as a service, there's a really great overview which one of my colleagues actually shared with me from India when he was doing one of the presentations. Was I think it was like a pizza as a service. There's a great diagram. If you Google it, you'll find it. And it gives you an analogy of what it means to kind of think through in the simple terms that as a service component, because software will use it, right? We're using Zoom today. We know what it is, but there's a little bit more behind the scenes. So when we focus about the marketing specifically within the context of our platform, we have a number of products, or as we refer to them, studios and builders. And they cover different features. Essentially, if you think about our product sort of suite, we evolved over the period of time from having some products developed internally within Salesforce and acquiring a number of products, combining, integrating them into the platform, integrating them into a stack, and eventually ending up with Marketing Cloud becoming more of an umbrella for a suite of different products. We've got Customer Data Platform, which is one of the recent development. That's the product that we built from ground up, which is now known as the Salesforce CDP. We acquired in February last year Interaction Studio, which is providing us ability to manage in real time all the different customer interactions. Our multi-channel journey capabilities are driven through Trendy Builder, and it's really a visual drag and drop experience for orchestrating different marketing flows. That was really built up from old days of what we call exact target. So we started with email capability, which was Email Studio. We've got mobile capabilities, so we've got push, SMS, a couple of others today. Then we expanded to include digital advertising, social customer care, something that we've added to the platform later down the track, and then essentially analytics. The one thing I missed in these steps when I was going through, and that was purposely done, the account-based marketing. There's another tool, or the tool that is the product name is Pardot. And quite often people get confused, especially if you're not familiar. Pardot is referred to as a marketing tool and marketing cloud tool, and then there is a marketing cloud. So we right now, as I said, we kind of combine all the marketing tools and think about that having as a toolbox that provides us an opportunity to empower our marketing customers with the ability to manage essentially their brands on the digital channels and connect with their consumers. When we begin, before I start in diving into the tools, I think it's very important to understand why do we need these tools? And it helps to put them into perspective and relate to some of these products when you're kind of coming up with the understanding of why does it matter and why is it important? So as even Vikas mentioned, right, with the COVID coming along, the digitalization of everything from the business operations, from the relationships, it really expanded in the last sort of year and a half. And marketing always have been kind of focused around building relationships between brands and their consumers, building the relationships between hospitals and their customers. It's really, when you think about you being a customer, consuming varieties of different services, it's sort of being on the other side of that and accepting all of these different communications, interacting with the brands, whether it's making an appointment to see a dentist, whether you making a purchase in store or online. All of these elements are essentially part of the marketing, and it kind of spans across varieties of touch points. But what is important that's all come together in this world is how do we get and support our customers to really build a relationship with a digital first outlook, because it's super difficult. It's very different from traditional marketing paradigm that we used to have in the past, and the evolution was sort of so fastly and quickly expedited by the COVID pandemic that we kind of have to go and completely refine what it means to do that. So all that done, we sort of looking into, we used to have a discussion in reference to journeys, but we now kind of consider to call it all collections of different moments. And interestingly enough, in today's world, what we sort of finding out is that it is super important for different brands to build this relationship with a human being, with individuals, not with a record in a database, not with the collections of numbers and figures and a segment that somehow you ended up being part of. And what's surprisingly sort of maybe a bit boring is that only a certain percent, and you can see it's 34% of all the customers that we sort of looked at doing Salesforce research, is we identified that only 34% of customers are actually able to treat customers as unique individuals. It's a super difficult challenge, and it is influenced by varieties of reasons. So if you think about humanizing kind of customer interactions, if you think about brands in the digital world talking to you as a human being, as an individual, there's a lot involved. It starts with data, it kind of expands into operations, it looking into, we have that siloed data as being one of the reasons, but it actually is more than just data. If you think about the process, if you think about companies, quite often when we're analyzing businesses and work with them, we realize that, the sales department works really well. The marketing department works really well, but they're not connected. And it's from strategy down to operations and down to data. All of these are disparate elements that really combined together that sort of respond from the brand perspective into these digital moments. Marketing is one of the interesting industries. If you ever sort of had any interest in less technical sort of domains, is where innovations are pretty much spreading every single year. We changing the way we do business drastically. That's my personal point of view, that we probably roughly every 2 years, we almost completely change what we refer to as a marketing stack. It's how we do different things, and what we do changes drastically in these 2 years. One of the great companies that does research on the internet analyzes how many different marketing products an average CMO can look into if they need to orchestrate all of these digital experiences. That there's about, I think we're now sitting at roughly 8,000 different tools that you can look for that allow brands to manage the digital space. Some of them are legacy tools, and that's really, really difficult. Some of them are new, and when it comes down to skill set, what I'm finding a lot in my interactions with consulting partners and just people in general is that the top edge digital marketing that is required today in order to apply and kind of digitize that human relationship is really not taught at school. We figure out the way how to train developers. We found a way how to train trades. We know how to get doctors going. We know how to build engineers. We found the path to educate and mentor and coach people to become architects over the period of time. But when we apply all of these tools to something that is maybe referred to in the old way like a softed sort of domain, but really more emotional, empathetic domain, which is marketing, all about, then all of a sudden we're finding the lack of skills, and people don't really understand what they need to do. And therefore, what we're ending up with, something that is really puzzling and challenging, because most of our brands are struggling to really help customers to build up conceptually a single source of truth for the database of their consumers that they work with. And again, I refer to it as a database. I'd love to get rid of that word in the marketing context, simply because we want to say we've got a number of our customers that we work with, and single one of them. We understand what their background is, how they interacted with us, what purchases and transactions they've done through their life cycle, and what else can we do to service them better. It is important because marketing relationship with consumers is really at the emotional level. Most of the time when you're making a purchase, there's a lot of elements of emotional selection and choice, an activity that is driven by a different science, how we interact with brands. When you think about you being like in the center of all of that as an end target of all these different brands talking to you, interacting to you, I would say that we all can agree today that extra noise that is created by varieties of brands trying to do the same things over and over across multiple channels, that growth of the inbox. We've got a lot of emails which are alike, similar, they pretty much serve the same purpose, and they're all sort of firing out from different brands doing the same thing over and over and again. And to me, this was one of the things where I almost always try to encourage and inspire people to think different. Marketing is all about difference. It's all about test and learn, adapting change, and therefore it requires a very different approach. But practically, when we come down to that, we just want to help our customers to really define and build that single point of view, so that a brand can understand how and when should they engage and sort of reach out to the individual in what particular situation, about what particular topic, and what content they should be sending back to them. When we talk about these sort of growth and vision, we start thinking about that understanding maturity model for these digital moments. We used to talk about a digital maturity model, but then we want to help to move brands into the realization of how do we identify and connect all the different dots within your technology stack, within your marketing operations, within your data, to really figure out where do you sit in that maturity curve. If the customers start, they usually fall into that standalone communications and progressively get down to the connected campaigns. But what we're finding is the challenge to really push and shift them towards these real-time moments. So if you think about your experiences when you maybe making a purchase, maybe a gift for your child, an anniversary, a gift for your partner, if you're making an appointment, if you're calling support for any brand, you want them to be aware why. It's almost like the challenge that I do quite often still discuss is, if you today walk into the bank surely they should know why are you, if you are their customer, why are you inside? There's so many like different reasons why you might be going up into the bank in the past. Today, there's a lot that is digitized. So if you coming in person into the branch, A, they should greet you by name without asking who you are. B, they should know why you're there. They should almost get to the point where it's 99% accuracy of why are you in that place in that particular moment in time. So that's kind of like my ultimate view of how do we help brands to become like that and be at that particular level. Now, from our tools, when we start talking about our tools, marketing cloud tools power a lot of that customer lifecycle. So we start looking into collecting a lot of the data from different data sources. We're combining them, bringing up into a central repository, and then building up that, the customer view and to understand where that particular individual is and how do we communicate with them, what message we send, and how we personalize that. The activation layer, which is right-hand side, it's really about outbound campaigns and communications, or real-time responses for some of the moments of interaction. So if you're making a booking of the car that you want to rent, we want to respond in real time to confirm that the booking was successful and the car will be waiting for you when you reach a certain point. We do provide the ability to communicate across different channels, and I'll show you shortly what are these different options and moments that we have in pleasure. And the other right-hand component, which is measurement and optimization, is super critical, as I said before, to the marketing natively, because it's all about defining the strategy, sending out communications or executing different actions, then getting the results, analyzing them, and identifying the path for optimization and improvement. There's always something that works well. There's usually something that doesn't work. And there are moments where things are sort of flat and they don't really make a difference. So understanding what you need to do, how do you improve ongoing, because marketing, going back to that, is a rapid change, rapid innovation, never stops. And it's a great way for professionals to really put their I guess, skills, because they're becoming part of something that is constantly evolving, constantly growing and changing. So you're always on the learn. And now let me kind of try to quickly give you a bit of an overview of all these different tools that I was trying to refer to in that story. So number one is when we talk about our customers, we use Trendy Builder as a tool, as I said, within the Marketing Cloud, and as a means to orchestrate and build up the customer communication sort of plan. So what we're doing is we're defining an audience when we're sending communications. We identify what particular messages and through which channels we want to send, and then define all of these payload when it needs to go, sort of orchestrating all of that. Very easy to use, drag and drop interface, very marketing friendly, visual, colorful, very appealing. Most of the time we work here with first-party data these days, but nonetheless, there are different opportunities to think even beyond that when it comes down to that. The second component of that is Email Studio. It's sometimes a bit of a challenge where we're discussing, depending on which country, which geography you come from, whether or not email today is still a relevant tool. I personally believe it is. If it's used correctly, if it's used right, it's a really good marketing tool to keep communication going with the customers. We provide a toolkit that goes way beyond just simple send an email. We've got artificial intelligence inbuilt into the messaging. We've got tools that provide us ability to collect the data right within the email client. And what it gives us is almost like that new way of interacting on the same old channel and really extending that experience to be a bit more modernized, a bit more digitized. And I know it's digital, how would you digitize it more, but more kind of flipping into a different paradigm where you can interact from the exact same tool. You don't have to leave and go up to different sites to fill out the form. You can provide the feedback right within the message. And it's really fascinating how it all sort of comes together. As I said, AI is a big thing on that. So that's something that totally changes the game on how we communicate on the emails. Mobile Studio, and if you can see that Mobile Studio is another channel application for us that combines and provides ability and opportunity to communicate through SMS, through push notifications in the custom applications. If we ever need to do integration with third-party products, like think about, maybe KakaoTalk. That was one of the things that I was discussing when I was in Korea with the team there. We do have some means and ways to expand that. We've got Line Messenger included into that. And again, all of these messages are very, very much reusing kind of like the concept of the same content that's coming up from the platform, but span across varieties of different channels. So now we can kind of be smarter to figure out what communication channels do we choose for a particular customer. Advertising, as I said, was an addition further once we get into email and mobile. It was a new paradigm a few years ago, and we wanted to ensure that we can integrate that advertising into the journey flow, so into orchestrating these communications, into the moments and reacting them, but at the same time provide ability to send particular audiences for targeting with advertising, whether we want to build a brand awareness, whether we want to suppress some of these marketing campaigns through the different media channels. So think about Google search, think about even LinkedIn, right, where we can publish a message that is relevant to you. And it could be for the reason because we targeted you through your data within the platform, or if we want to find a lookalike audience. So let's say we've got a great segment of a very well-behaved customers within our customer set, and we want to find a similar individuals, then that is ability that we can utilize to build more. The great thing about the Advertising Studio that provides that capability is its security and the ease of use within the platform. You don't have to do any integration. We're already connected to all of these different channels to publish. It really comes down to identifying the right use case and effectively letting the platform and tools do the job for you. Fantastic opportunity to expand brand presence across different channels. Personalization, I think I mentioned at the start that real-time interaction management. This is our Interaction Studio. It's a toolkit that provides us ability to connect different signals from individual behaviors on digital channels. And in real time, if you look at the line at the very bottom of that slide, it says everything happens under 30 milliseconds. So we've got a tool that can understand a digital signal of an individual across digital channels, right? So we're getting that signal, understand what it means, recognize that, and then provide a personalization experience. So we're changing the way how the website might look like. We sending a campaign, a promotion message. We potentially guiding customer through a particular flow. Maybe if you look on the website where it's a bank and you've been coming up to look for, let's say, a new credit card, but all of a sudden you notice the advertising of the mortgage loan. So you go down the path of the mortgage loan, you start exploring that. And the next time when you come on the site would already change in order to try and continue kind of taking you through that path that is relevant for the mortgage conversation, because there is an intent that you came up on the site with, but practically the behavior and experience demonstrated to the marketers that you might be actually interested in something else, something more important. So we want to be able to provide that toolkit where we can orchestrate that rules and effectively define how the experience for the customer would look like. It's a truly unique one-to-one personalization engine. And for us, it is important and significant because it has embedded artificial intelligence. So we can test and learn through the tool. It's so much easier for us to tweak the rules if we need to, but at the same time, we can fall down into a toolkit that is provided to define all of these different criteria and business rules. It does have a fair bit of applicability if you want to connect and think outside of the box. You know, can we connect to the ATM? Can we connect to the custom mobile app? Can we connect to other digital means? Absolutely. And again, all of this data amalgamated together provides ability for us in real time make a best decision for the next best offer, next best action, next best piece of content. All right, the flagship of the modern innovations for us is the Salesforce CDP. It's a tool that brings up all our data within the platform into a single place, combines that together, builds up unified customer profiles, and really provides marketers an opportunity to think to think like they can talk to an individual rather than talk to that, data record in the table. They can have duplicates across the border. So when we're thinking about Salesforce products, we've got multiple, you've got commerce experiences, you've got service and sales and service data, you've got marketing data. All of these elements can contain different representations of me as an individual. The unification of the data and kind of recognition of the customer to say, well, it's the same person, it's flat. And in sales experience, we looked at him from one angle. When it comes down to service, he's got a number of cases. This is how we interacted with him. When it comes down to commerce, these are the transactions he made. Some of them are as a guest profile, some of them are registered profile, but nonetheless, we can still see all of them. We can combine them, unify them. So when it comes down to marketing, sort of design decisions and thinking and visualizing, your top most loyal customers that spend a good number of money with you as a brand, all of these tools combined, when the data is combined together, then we empower marketers to see them. We give them an opportunity to see individuals through all the different dimensions and lenses, really combined back into that single source of truth. Fantastic, really innovating product that's going to continue to grow and drastically change over the next probably year or so at the very least. Again, depending on where the industry will go and how it's going to require us to change and adapt and pivot and integrate new features, we'll see. But today is one of the really interesting spaces to work, especially if you're into data. Social component is another studio for us, and what it means is we're bringing up the social channel into the play. The social studio itself provides us an opportunity to manage social channels for customers, and strategically as a company, we taken a little bit of a step back into our focus on the social medium and social channels in a way of how do we publish and manage content across varieties of different channels. We still have an opportunity to listen to, and that's really where that integrated use case flow comes into play. So that one thing we are very proud of is that, at least one thing that we're very proud of, is that integration with service, where we're providing social customer service. I don't know if you've seen it or not, is sometimes you can complain about your customer experiences on, let's say, Facebook or Twitter or even somewhere on the web, and all of a sudden you get the brands to respond and react to you in real time. For me, it was a great experience where we went to like a holiday place for a couple of nights with kids a few years ago, and they were younger, and our son, Ashton, he was playing, well, he was pretending that he's playing pool, but we took the picture, and when we were leaving the place, my wife posted on the Facebook and said, like Ashton is pretending that he's a pool player. And then within the few minutes, we get the response from someone who is obviously listening to that social channel. The mention of the place came about, and they responded back and said, "Well, congratulations." So they made some really pleasant comment. So it wasn't a complaint. It was that ability for a brand to recognize that someone positively mentioned that, like a positive sentiment, and really elevate the conversation. When they responded, it added an extra, like it's resonated with us because it's an extra layer of pleasure, that emotional connection that we make with the brand, because they are so attentive and they picking up good and bad and ugly. It's almost like the same as a feedback. Tell us everything, and that's the only way for us to improve or know that we're doing right. What we have in the social studio is another really, really important piece is that embedded artificial intelligence. Again, for marketing, with the world of today, the amount of data and the amount of decisions we want marketers to do is enormous. And it grows up every year with the number of data sources, with the number of tools come about, again, with the number of channels they can talk through. So what the social studio gives us is an opportunity to almost go through that social post and understand a lot of the context of that post, of that message. So we can, as you can see, we can pick up the who message, what is their status in terms of ability to influence, right? So if you've got a big influencer rate, and then potentially a single message could be super detrimental, or again, very positive to the brand, and they can, echo the brand sentiment up. The sentiment is a key because it tells us whether or not it was a negative or positive post. So if I want to look into the social customer service with the ability to recognize complaints, the tool has ability to try and recognize all of these sentiments and automatically feed that straight into the case queue. So we don't even have to manually go and process every single post. We're relying on the tool, we're relying on the automated workflow to do that for us. So from the marketing standpoint of view, what we're doing is we're surfacing these things, that these posts, these messages that need to be responded to because they have a negative or positive payload. It's amazing. And if you ever get a chance to experiment and play with Social Studio, you would be fascinated by how much that tool gives you and empowers you as a marketer to actually make some decisions and work through all of this amount of information on the social feeds. Account-based marketing. Remember the tool Pardot? That is an interesting product because it is an extension of marketing, and the number of times that a lot of people would kind of say which one of the products should use Marketing Cloud in the reference of these journeys and messaging and email and mobile studio, or Pardot. And we often find ourselves puzzled. How do you react and respond to that message, to that question? Practically, it's really not one or the other. It's how do they both complement that marketing toolkit. Account-based marketing empowers more close relationship between sales and marketers when you need an element of the human interaction. So the account-based marketing, the Pardot tool itself, provides an opportunity to work at the account level, to work almost in that B2B context. But I try to stay away from just calling it's a B2B tool, because I had a number of customers where we implemented Pardot and it was very successful in driving B2C conversations. It's really the purpose. So if you think about the sales process, where it's not about just selling to the masses, but you really want to focus on every single person that you want to sell to, and you have sales team that works with these individuals at almost like one-to-one level. What we want to do is empower them to understand what are the right people that the sales team should be focusing on. Who is next to ready to make a decision, to sign the contract, to make a purchase, to transact with us. And once we get these signals channeled up to sales team, then they become more successful because their selling job becomes easier. So we're really empowering sales funnel in this case, and we're really building that flow from identifying individuals' interest at the business context and business level, and kind of following through and guiding them to the point where it's now time for an individual to connect with you as a customer and actually have that business conversation about transaction. Again, artificial intelligence flowing through that. We want to surface a lot of these signals in an automated way. We don't want marketers to spend time building these rules, trying to come up with best practices. We comprehend all of that through varieties of our clients. We apply these rules and formulas at the data layer, very deep in the platform, and then surface up the results straight to the sales team to say, this is your top 20 customers that you'd be having phone calls, lunches, and dinners through this week, because most of these are ready to make a business transaction with you. And that's where that comes into the play. All right, the analytics, the engine that powers brain. We acquired Datorama some time ago, and it was called Marketing Intelligence, and it is still one of the best marketing intelligence tools I've ever seen personally for me. It was a bit of a sophisticated journey to understand the tool, how it works as an implementing consultant for myself. So I went through the training. But because I love data natively, it was at the same time very empowering to kind of look at and appreciate the talent of creators who define that. It's a very marketing-centric analytics tool. It was designed for marketers by marketers, and therefore, in the context of analysis, everything is a marketing point of view. It's not traditional enterprise analytics where you can and should throw all your data to make sense and define different models. Absolutely not. This is pure play, understand what is the working stream of marketing activities that happens within your business, what works, what doesn't, where you have to optimize, where you have to double up on spend and investment to get better results and better outcomes. The tool has Einstein capabilities, again, artificial intelligence built into that provides insights into changes. The greatness of the tool is dynamics, where you start analyzing the trends, and all of a sudden you get the message from the system telling you, hey, look at that, the score all of a sudden went down 2%. Here are the reasons why it might happen. So it gets to the level of not just highlighting the discrepancy in the data, it suggests what might be the reason. So as a marketing operation person, you look at that and you go, I understand what's happening here. That campaign, that experience, that moment that we're handling is not well done. We need to go back and kind of to the whiteboard and refine what we do here, how much we spend, what we need to do, what we can improve. And vice versa, right? As well as you can recognize the failure, you need to be able to recognize success, what works. And marketers should be the people that we want to empower with the ability to go back to business and actually highlight the great work that they do. So that's the tool that provides a great experiences for us. And kind of a bit of a highlight of the artificial intelligence across varieties of different studios and products. It's more to say, the reason I brought that slide is when people think about marketing being sort of a mundane toolkit where you have to go and do repetitive mundane tasks, sometimes it is, but quite often it's not. It's really how you look at that and what tools do you want to take on. With amount of all of these different artificial intelligence inbuilt into the toolkit, today is really the innovative thinking that is required in order to take these tools on the play and use them proactively within the customer space. All right, just making sure that we progressing through the time as well. I want to do a quick overview of the technology behind the Marketing Cloud, but not really diving too deep into the tech. So I've got this content warning. The next slide is going to be a bit technical. Don't be afraid. It's okay. We're just going to go through that pretty quick. There's a reason that I brought it in is just to ensure that we kind of like giving people who probably are a bit more technical a bit of a preview what is actually happening underneath the platform and what all of these architecture slides are sort of comprised of. So if you can see, the left hand side is sort of what we refer to as like a customer side, and right hand side is representing Marketing Cloud. And the key point of that message is there are varieties of different tools. So we've got the data layer over here, we've got real-time interaction management, we've got that CDP unification, we've got that messaging that was combination of this traditional exact target and other studios and builders that came up through the period of time, so kind of extending and augmenting that functional capability. Now, the interesting bit here, you will see that CRM is reflected on the left-hand side, right? So, and what it brings me to is to say we actually have CRM sitting as a slightly separate field of play. And what we want to highlight is that there are different pieces of the platform that are, as I said, integrated and built together over a period of time, but marketing predominantly does not sit on the core platform. So if you are someone who comes up from the core background, Salesforce core background, you understand the platform, we sit on a different technology stack. So while we provide a similar set of shared services, right, we look at the application sort of services network and infrastructure that are combined as a, as a cloud-based software effectively, we are different from the core platform. And that's something just to be aware of, because when it comes down to your skills, when it comes down to your work, you're actually executing a lot of the things in a different space. So if you think about the compute power, the data layer, the processing, the way you kind of orchestrate and do things, it's a different technology that powers up that particular workhorse for us. And again, going back to sort of drawing a bit of a parallel and distinction with core is we have 5 releases a year versus 3 in Salesforce core. Again, one reason for that is reflection of the fact that the pace of innovation in marketing is significantly different from pace of innovation in the more traditional sort of enterprise software. And therefore, we're trying to be more reactive and proactive to ensure that we're getting ahead of the market trends. And therefore, we push more features faster to support what our customer needs are. And it just shows you what are all of these different options for us are. All right, a very quick brief in, brief out. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast and it's still clear, let me give you a quick overview of potential for careers, because that's a super important step that I did want to cover today. Again, kind of come back a bit to what we do in marketing. You can see that there's few items here where we're kind of focusing on the outcomes that we trying to drive for our customers. There's, functional capabilities, but at the same time, there's plenty of non-functional. So depending on your background, depending on, what drives you, what motivates you, quite often if you feel like, I'd love to be maybe a slightly touched with development toolkit, but not really be a hardcore developer. It's great. If you're an architect and you think that Marketing Cloud doesn't have an architectural space to play, you're wrong. You've seen the diagram. It's pretty complex and complicated, and there's a lot of tools that you have to think through as an architect. But there's a lot in marketing that is really open to business context, business domain. So if let's say your educational background and experience could be coming up from creative services. If you're a creative person, if you're an artistic person, if your talent is about natural curiosity, you look to analyze things, there's a whole heap of things that you can do within the marketing space. If you think about what we do in orchestrating these customer experiences, we most of the time work with these three key pillars. And if you think about any marketing solution, I was trying to think through, if I put that, will anyone challenge me and say, well, how no, Vlad, that's not going to happen in this particular use case? Most of the time, I'll put it this way. You work with content, with data, and experiences. All right. So if you think about what you do in marketing domain, in marketing space, it's the combination of these three. Sometimes you spend a lot more time on data than on the other two pillars. In other times, it could be equally distributed across them. So I'm taking away that whole configuration part of the, you set up the accounts, you configure the tools, you do these and that. Predominantly, again, goes back to what we do is really focused around these three pillars. And therefore, when you look into what are these different roles and options you have, if you look on the left-hand side, the very left items that I have on that slide are representing functional or functions within the team. So if you think about being, for example, a consultant, then there is a business consultant, someone who works with the customers all the time, identifying requirements, challenges. They are interacting on the business level. They don't go down to the tools. They don't really talk about how product A will be interacting with product B and then integrating with product C. That's not really what they do. That they really talk about the strategy of the business, the KPIs, how marketing strategy aligns to the business strategy. What can we do to enhance and make it better? So these type of conversations. Again, if you're creative by nature, you can focus on things that relate to customer and user experiences. So you start looking into how do individuals in the world interact with a brand through these different digital channels. And then again, how can we improve? What can we do? How can we handle, connect to them and really manage them through varieties of these digital interactions? If you're a developer, we have plenty of opportunities for developers. So you can work with building up landing pages. Sometimes it sounds simple, but let's put it into perspective. It's really designed for people who are curious as developer. And imagine if you are coming from a bit of a developer background, but you now put into the context of doing, let's say, programming in Pascal, right? The procedural language, and using Excel functions as a means to come up with a result that you would normally in modern world have in pretty much any given object-oriented programming language. So it challenges you enough. On the other side, if you're a completely non-developer person, but still would like to think and work with a few things, there's enough room to go up and maybe work with data. You might be working with orchestrating some of the elements of the platform where you're learning functional capabilities of the product and use them and apply them in a certain context without really getting down into that sort of technical level. So the concept of Salesforce click no code still has a lot of space, but the outcomes, if you connect all of these different roles to what we're driving, they're completely different. So for all the different traits, and this is not necessarily a super exhaustive view of what are these different options and functions are, because in different companies, different teams, they might have a different names as well. But they're just giving you hopefully a guideline of what are the opportunities for you if you are at all interested. From certification standpoint of view, we do highlight certifications as a means to encourage people to sort of reach a certain level and assess themselves, how far they progressed with tools, with consulting, with architecture and so forth. So for marketing, if you look in the path, there are kind of like intermediate levels where you've got marketing cloud consultant. If you're a bit more on developer, you got developer. If you're into account-based marketing, if you're sort of very interested in B2B operations of business, you've got the Pardot consultant certification that you can achieve. And then if you're part of our partner ecosystem, then we've got an additional set of certifications or accreditations rather that are coming up very much this month, going live. That will extend that ability to recognize some of the skills that are more deeper and focused on some of the newer products. And again, taking in that complexity into a completely different perspective. Now, for some folks who might be interested to say, well, it seems too simple sometimes, and it could, if you're not familiar with that. You go, what is the next path? Or sometimes it could be for people, look, I've reached it, and I had these conversations over the course last year. I've reached a certain point. What can I do next? Where can I put my, developer background? I love marketing. I love what I do, but I need more. And that's great. We want to support that. So now there are two ways to look where you can go and grow into. So if you're into a bit more digital space, not necessarily an architect, but kind of like to do things, then that whole concept of Digital 360 that we took as a brand last year, which is a combination of marketing, commerce, and experience. These are three different product lines where you, as a developer, can go and look on the side, still maintain your development background, but effectively grow it. Because commerce has a front end, a bit of back end development experience. In the same way, you've got a bit of a platform, you've got a few things that you can apply on the front end. So you've got options to apply different types of developer background, and you can go as deep as you want to. If you're more on architecture, so you kind of go, I've got business consultancy, I've got sort of marketing strategy, I've got more of a solution architect nature, then B2C architect is another opportunity to grow forward. It does require you understand service, commerce, and marketing in combination, how they still come together, how they work in different contexts and use cases, but it's really that next level of extension. With all the honesty, I think it's a deeper journey. So if you're starting today with, say, a developer background on the platform, you'll kind of have that service path, which is the first icon on the right, that with the heart sort of more or less covered, but you kind of need to go into two other domains, and you need to go pretty deep to understand them well. And it will take some time. So there is plenty of opportunity to grow. It's more about identifying that path. My personal experience, I came up from a completely developer-centric background. I joined the development company. We used to do 3-tier web applications. I work on the front end, middleware, like middle tier, and the back end with different databases natively. And grew to the solution architect role. And then I joined the Exec Target at the time as a solution architect into a marketing services team. And my outlook and interest is kind of like across these, digital 360 and probably more towards that B2C solution architect, because the architecture remained with me over all of these 8 years I've been in Salesforce. It's something I really enjoy doing. But what I'm finding interesting is in marketing, the architecture challenges you from a completely different perspective. It's very different when you're doing a traditional software architecture or integration architecture, just really like system architecture. It's really different because you're not really developing a new software. I don't know, for me, it was a very different mind shift when I came into that digital marketing space. All right, I think I'm kind of running very close to the time. So very brief couple of slides. Learning journey. Where do you start? So we talked a lot today about what marketing does. I know it might be difficult to comprehend and take everything away. So the best thing I would encourage you to do, if there's any interest that has sparked in you out of this my speech today, is to start in the marketing career path. So something that we launched recently through Trailhead, define the path specifically for people who are interested in marketing domain. It will give you some guidelines around different roles. It will give you link to industry research that we facilitate in marketing and a few other things to understand a bit of the trends, where things are, where we're heading. It's a great conceptual and domain level path to start, identifying, is that the space for you? Is that something that would resonate and interest you going forward? Once you lock yourself in, we go, do you know what? It is actually interesting. And I'd like to try and I'd like to follow that path. What do I do next? You go through Trailhead. Two means of how you start. If you're less structured in your learning and you just like to go and do that bite-piece learning, fantastic. Go up, find the trails, filter them on Marketing Cloud. There are a few starter level that give you product introduction. They could be somewhere from 2.5 hours to 4 hours. This is about 10 hours worth of investment to take that next level assessment to say, is that for me? Is that something that I would be interested in getting and stepping into? If you get more, then my encouragement would be to kind of think about what is my next step. So go and try to look into certifications, read through them, and choose one of the paths that you want to follow. There are trail mixes that will guide you through preparation and other courses. So you now become a bit more structured and you follow a certain path because you set yourself a goal and you start achieving it pretty much from day 2, not day 1. And then for our consulting partners, if you're part of that ecosystem, you're in luck because we actually have a bit more content than in Trailhead that is exclusive. It's designed for partners, as I mentioned, similar to these accreditations, mainly because we go a few levels deeper and providing a different perspective on the product and tools. So if you're in that space, you've got few more additional opportunities to learn more about marketing, and certainly go and have a look again by product. You'll find if you just filter down on Marketing Cloud, there's plenty of courses and curriculum that you will find in that tool. And just before my closing remark, I just wanted to ensure that you don't overlook the opportunity to learn through community-led events and resources like the one today. There are a great number of resources, and I'm really grateful for all the marketing champions and people who are passionately sharing the knowledge into the ecosystem. There is enough resources today to go through. It's more of, if you need guidance where to minimize that because the scope is too wide and there are too many things, then I'm sure that there's a lot of people, me including, who would be happy to guide you and help you to find what is the good starting point for you. So that is something to kind of keep in mind, because we are not the only bearers of knowledge these days, which is great. And there's a lot of folks out there, and similar to what you guys do here in Jaipur Marketers group, is providing opportunity for others to present, to better their skills and effectively do that learning through a peer-to-peer coaching, guidance, and mentorship. And with that, if there are any questions and feedback that we want to take now, or if you guys feel like we need to switch over the gears, let me know.
Yeah, Oleg, thank you so much for that power-packed session. I'll give you a couple of seconds to have some water. We do have some questions, so let's quickly take a couple of minutes to answer those. So the first question is, if we have multiple systems, which is like legacy systems which we are using, and each system has a unique identifier to identify a customer, will CDP help to align everything together to a one-member ID kind of concept?
Yes, we do. Specifically CDPs, that's where it kind of comes play to unifying these different individuals. There are different ways of recognizing people behind the IDs, but we do have that concept of unification where you kind of bring up and say, well, Vlad is represented 3 different identifiers, but we still want to see him as Vlad. And that is the purpose of the CDP, to do exactly that.
Great. And the next question is, I think, $1 million question, and the entire humanity is asking for it very long time. How can we get a practice org for Marketing Cloud?
That's a really good question. As you said, it's $1 million question, if not the $1 billion question. Look, this is one of the practical challenges where we tried a few different means and ways, and unfortunately still there is no ability for us to provide a similar developer org that we have for core platform. So the way I'm kind of looking at right now, and we were discussing with Shabu from UTC Global to try and encourage partner firms who want to kind of delegate their time and educate and coach and mentor people with ability to use their partner accounts. So I'll be working on the guide on how to configure your partner account so that you can get few learners into that space safely enough that they can go and learn tools, but at the same time, do not impose any danger to your company operations. I mean, we don't have any ways to do that unless you want to take a paid course through Trailhead, and you get an instance of Marketing Cloud for a certain period of time. That's really two ways. You either need to be a partner or you need to go into the course. Third way is if you're a customer. So if you're coming from the customer background, then obviously you would have the instance, and that's where you can practice some of the learnings.
Great. Yeah, we'll be looking forward for that. The next question is it possible to access Salesforce CDP from Marketing Cloud?
Let's put it this way. Access, I'm not sure what you mean, but the way this Salesforce CDP is architected and designed is we consuming or we ingesting data from Marketing Cloud and we activating or publishing data back. So there is that integrated flow natively done through the tool to support the data in and data out concept for marketing. And therefore they do work together, but you don't access interface within the same user experience. That if that was the question, then no, there's still two different sort of UIs that you have to work with.
Okay, yeah. So CDP I can only access through the CRM.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Then there is a question, what is the difference between Pardot and Marketing Cloud? There's a one-liner answer to it, like one is B2B and one is B2C, but if you want to add something to that.
Yeah, again, I mentioned that through the presentation, it's not just B2B and B2C. I would honestly encourage you to think of Pardot is all about nurturing and hand-holding your sales process and cohesively working between marketing and sales teams. That's the tool that's designed to do that. At the top of the funnel, when we're prospecting to new customers, when we're trying to handle that transaction, it's almost like very step-by-step operational view. Or if you have existing customer base and you're expanding the footprint. But again, it needs to kind of think through Marketing Cloud altogether comes down as a mass operational tool. We want to optimize and construct the operation at scale versus with Pardot, we almost purposely want to go back and say, no. We want sales team to work with individuals. And we want to have that human interaction step and human element when it comes down to transacting with some of these prospects or customers. And that's where Pardot really plays well, because it gives an opportunity to surface the right people to talk and connect with, and ability to kind of see through that and define what is the status, what is the score of the lead and prospect and so forth.
Okay, great. Next question is, my company is not using Firebase, so can't we handle push notes through Interaction Studio?
Interaction Studio these days was redesigned to, and it's our vision that all the interactions that you want to do outbound happens through Marketing Cloud. So if you're really thinking about, what you want to do from push perspective, you'll need to integrate our SDK, but messaging, orchestration of messages has to be done in Marketing Cloud through Trendy Builder and Mobile Studio.
Okay, and there is another part to it. And how can we personalize push notes on Mobile Studio? We have already enabled rich media, but how do we make the content dynamic?
Yeah, look, it's a great question because it does sort of not always come obvious. Most of the time you end up with using scripting languages. So we've got a couple of options when it comes down to scripts. Most known one would be the M script, and it's designed to do specifically that. You can craft your content, the way it's populated, the way it's built up, based off the custom attributes, logical decisions. So you really can make it almost like that, as I said, that one-to-one level decision at the time of send, using the data and any other context elements when you're doing the message. So it fully supports that function. If you're just working with the UI, then probably less so, or less of the opportunities. You'll have to start learning a bit more of the technical aspect. But don't be afraid, it's very similar to Excel, right? So if you can work with Excel functions and define few options across the rows and columns, I think you'll be fine. It might take a certain period of time to learn. We've got great trails, and we've got certainly a few community options that will help you to learn that.
Sure. Yeah, I think we have a couple more. So while connecting the CRM with the Marketing Cloud, then it is usable for a single user or for a whole account?
When you're connecting with CRM, if you want to use it in Marketing Cloud, then it's pretty much some actions at the account level, but some of the configurations will require you as a user. So if you're configuring, say, journey that is connected to sales data, then you need to have a sales license or Sales Cloud license. Same the other way around. Most of the time, the need for Marketing Cloud functions within the CRM is less needed these days. We're kind of trying to think of optimizing, automated the flow. So it's almost like we're usually consuming the CRM data and we publishing back, but we're not expecting that CRM users will really kind of do something specifically or intentionally be aware of marketing operations. So but it does. If you need to do something with marketing ability and functions with CRM within the CRM, then you'll need to have a Marketing Cloud user license.
Sure. Yeah. And is it possible to connect Evergage to Journey Builder?
Well, yes. One of the, so number one is it's no longer called Evergage. Try to switch to the modern terms. It's Interaction Studio. Second bit is we do have a function or gear that is providing ability to connect to the journeys. What we're doing today is we're publishing segments into the Marketing Cloud. So think about, your customers are being added to a particular segment in Interaction Studio. We publish the segment into Marketing Cloud. And the other feature that we would be looking at is if you want to make some decisions within the journey itself, then you might start bringing up some of the data from Interaction Studio into Marketing Cloud.
Sure, great. And the next question, I think I'll be more happy and feel honored to answer that, but Vlad, you can add to that. So is there a way to connect CMS to Marketing Cloud? Yes. If you go to App Exchange, there are a couple of applications, CMS Connect and CMS Sync, and you can connect CMS to Marketing Cloud out of the box from there. And now, Vlad, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think like what is great is that there are two different versions of that connectivity, right? Yeah. And I found that it was you guys did a tremendous job of actually publishing that. Yeah. It's good because it helps to establish that sort of native consumption of the content in our space within the Salesforce CMS into marketing as well as other clouds. Going forward, we do have a view that we want to unify some of these experiences, but it's a bit of a longer journey. So for the next year, at least, I think these connectors will do tremendous work. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It's already done. It works. So yeah, it's totally doable.
Yeah, thanks, Vlad. All right. Yeah, I think those are the most of the questions. So one more question about WhatsApp chatbot to Marketing Cloud. Is it a way to do that?
WhatsApp chatbot. Just trying to think through because I'm getting confused with WhatsApp and what was the other one? Similar green thing. We do have an integration now with one of the social additional products. Mm-hmm. And I do apologize because I'm not going to be able to recall it now, whether it's WhatsApp or what was the other one. But if you want to, let's put it this way. If there is a way for a tool to integrate, we provide a number of these channels included with the platform. So the mobile studio gets an interaction where you get that ability to connect with the chatbots. And within the Journey Builder, there are some activities that we use that provides ability to send message to all of these different platforms. If you come across the case, like my conversations with the team in Korea or a couple of partners in Korea where they needed KakaoTalk, which is their sort of localized messaging platform that they use, they asked me, can we do something? Absolutely. There is a way to extend Journey Builder. You can build custom activities that can connect and integrate with any other messaging systems without any problems. So therefore, if you can't find it in the tool, the most logical answer would be it will be a custom build that you'll have to do. If you can think about creatively how you can use these interactions, the Service Cloud on the other side provides a lot of additional channel opportunities to communicate and interact with the customers. So if the purpose of that messaging bot would be to recognize some of the conversations and trigger a particular response and message, then you can orchestrate that through integration with Service Cloud, where you capture the conversation, create a particular task or activity, or like an action effectively that will be picked up from Marketing Cloud. And in essence, you can kind of do some activities in marketing as a result of that. So it's all about the practical use case. But again, I'm just, for some reason, I'm having a blank moment. So there you go. Sometimes it happens. I just can't tell you whether or not we do have that feature published or not with WhatsApp, because there was one of the last releases where one extra channel was published within the platform.
Sure. Yeah. And then what certifications we have in Marketing Cloud? So as Vlad said, there's one for admin, which you can learn what are the administrations of Marketing Cloud. Then there is a particularly for email automation capabilities, market email specialist. And then you can have consultant, which will help you to build that consulting acumen in the Marketing Cloud, where you can talk to customers and help in designing solutions. And then there is a developer where you can go to advanced level. You can help in advanced personalization through AMP scripts and all those things. So there are the 4 certifications they have in Marketing Cloud, and there are 2 in Pardot. And last question, career development wise, how useful is SFMC? It is. Marketing Cloud was the past, it is present, and it will definitely going to be the future of how we are doing business. So if you have a chance, or if you're getting an opportunity to learn Marketing Cloud, do that. I got that opportunity a couple of years back, and I took that, and it really helped me in my career. So yeah, I will definitely recommend to learn Marketing Cloud.
Can I also add to that? So just more, I think one of the things that I really am passionate about is I had a conversation with a number of technical consultants who come from different parts of the Salesforce ecosystem. And I kind of convinced at least few of them to switch, as I call, to marketing. And none of them regrets that decision, because it does help you with opportunity-wise. Like there's a hot demand across the globe today for marketing specialists in terms of people who are aware and know the domain, know the tools. But at the same time, think about you as your persona, your individual interest. What drives and motivates you? Because that is really what is important. If you're gonna just chase up the I want to go and follow the trends, but you're not suited for that, it's not something that attracts you, I think you'll find yourself bored down pretty quick, and at least not seeing the future behind all of these many challenges that will come your way. Think about the natural curiosity, like something that you need to have when you're in marketing streams. You always have to be curious about outcomes, challenges. You need to be willing to challenge the norm pretty much every single time when you do something. If you think about repetitive stuff, it's not fun, right? And it's not what marketing is all about. We do, like, there's a great discussion around, can you tell the best practice? Can you tell us what other customers are doing? And to me, there's 2 different things, right? If you want to talk about what other customers are doing, you're replicating someone else. And it's a detrimental effect to the brand, because you don't want to replicate and, look at your inbox. There's a bunch of brands who send you the same emails and they're just changing the logo effectively. That's not fun. It's not marketing. Marketing has to be different. You need to refine and go and say, well, I don't think that your brand has to be doing this and that. I believe that for you specifically, these are the areas we need to focus on. And the only way that you can get to that is that having that extra ability to think outside the box, to be curious, to say, well, what if we change that? How it will, trigger and prompt. Some of the other things that is just creativity. You need to be creative. There's no way around that. You have to be creative. Even if you're a developer, you need to think about that. How do we, what is the end result of what I'm trying to do? Why am I doing these things? And it's never just dull, boring thing that you code over and over again. It's not the same class you develop, and it's not the same software you're building. These are the outcomes you're driving. So it's very impulsive. It's very emotional. If you're a person who is more on empathy, who's really interested in that human relationship and how people behave, that is definitely a domain for you. It's more of maybe identifying sometimes, do you want to go towards a bit more technical consultancy versus more sort of technology itself and implementation paths, but like there's plenty even in between that you're going to be busy with. And again, from, once you get to that road, and if you are committed to that, it's something that drives you, you'll find yourself busy no matter where you're in the world.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Vlad. Now let's get back to the Kahoot quiz. So Vlad, if you can stop sharing.